The funny thing is, or the frightening thing, I should say, is that there's a handful of guys on this roster who owe Rowdy Tellez, like, I was going to say a beer. How about a steak? Good morning to you. Good. Friday morning, I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Everybody knows about Rowdy's struggles. 10 for his past 78. Can't make anything happen. Can't even really get the ball out of the infield. And everybody also knows that the least popular person at PNC Park on any given day or night is Rowdy. And I'm sure some of that had to do with his weird scene, the uncomfortable scene, really, with David Bednar earlier this season. The whole, we don't do that here. A guy hadn't even been in Pittsburgh for a month, and he's telling fans how to behave, and even if it was just for fun, and I didn't really have that much of a problem with it, it was ill-advised. Well, it turns out that came back and bit him, but it sure helped some other dudes. Because while Rowdy was going 10 for his past 78, Michael A. Taylor has gone 10 for his past 73. He's been really no different other than one of his balls sailed over the fence. How about Alika Williams, 13 for his past 62. Jared Triolo, never hear anybody even mention him, 15 for his past 82. Of course, we know about Jack Sawinski. He's younger, so he got demoted. Henry Davis, he's younger, so he got demoted. But these guys, they're all still here, along with whoever the backup catcher happens to be on a given day. Which means that this roster that's carrying around precious cargo in its starting rotation, 3 of those 5 guys are Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, and Mitch Keller. And I gotta tell you, Bailey Falter's not exactly eating anybody's exhaust on that particular train. He's been really, really good in his own right. And I was really, really wrong about him, and I'm going to mention that every time I even speak his name. That's how much I am indebted in that specific regard. They got all this. They got all-star closer David Bednar. They've got everything going on here, and yet they are carrying around, want to count them with me? Rowdy, Taylor, Alika, that's 3. Triolo is 4. Whoever the backup catcher happens to be is 5. The backup catcher can't hit. Really, if you're being honest here, Yasmani Grandal's not much of a hitter either. So now you're looking at 6. All right. 13 position players get carried. 9 of them have to dress for a game. And you're doing this. You're carrying all of this around. Look, I spent yesterday's episode on stuff that I like about this team. Stuff that I've seen, heard, just, observed through the eyes of others, meaning stories that get relayed to me, anecdotes while I'm there. And I hope that comes across in the spirit that's intended. It's genuine. I believe in the potential of this team, in large part, but not solely, because of the rotation. I also happen to believe in 3 or 4 of these position players, and probably not more than that. But when you have that pitching, you do not wait. That window isn't just wide open right now. The entire pane has been busted. The frame is down on the street. Why? Well, let me spell it out for you in terms that Pittsburghers can understand better than most. Because when you have pitching like this, all you need to do is sneak into the playoffs and you are doing damage. The wild card format, this would have been wonderful for that. You would have had a Paul Skeens. You would have had a Jared Jones. You would have been able to get through a one and done. You can now get through the wild card as a best of 3 because you can go with, Skeens, Jones, Keller. It doesn't matter what the order is. Oh, Skeens first. You can put anything together with this rotation and win a playoff series, which is the purpose for having the professional sports franchise, right? Unless I'm missing something here over the last 40 years. How many bats are needed? I don't know. Who's available? I don't know. I'm not the GM. I don't have his contacts. I don't have his texts, his emails. I can make up names. I can make up prospects that I'd send away. But you know what I can't make up? This team's 4 games under 500 with Skeens, Jones, and Keller and Falter in this rotation. With the rotation that overall, counting all of the starts, including the handful of bad ones, ranks 4th in all of Major League Baseball. They are the 4th best at what they do at the single most important, influential position. But they're 4 games under 500. And they're carrying around a bunch of 170 hitting dudes. Tell me what I'm supposed to say. Those of you who can't stand to hear the negative, tell me what I'm supposed to say about that right there. Tell me what I'm supposed to say. When we come back, J1Q. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at Northshore Tavern. That's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. Northshore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. Today's J1Q comes from James, who says, DK, first off, I really love the daily shots. Never miss them. Thanks for the great work. I appreciate that, James. I have a J1Q of my own. While I do agree that it seems that Ben Cherington, Derek Shelton, and company don't seem to show that innate hunger to win based on their actions, I can't understand just how that's possible. From what I can tell, these are highly accomplished individuals in an extremely competitive field. How is it that their hunger/desire to win and prove themselves wouldn't exist? How can I, as a lifelong fan with no tangible connection to the team, care so much more about them winning than those who would be personally vindicated and showered with praise for doing so? I mean, they didn't get to this point by not being highly competitive, right? What am I missing here? James, it's not the simplest of subjects. And I try to be mindful of the fact that, and it is a fact, when I say stuff like they're not competitive enough people or their priority isn't winning, that it's ludicrous on its face, that it's an absurdity to the extreme. You're talking about professional sports. You can talk about any sports. You can talk about stuff that me and you did, meaningful stuff as children. And they're competitive. You want to win. You're motivated by winning. What has happened, I believe, with this franchise is it's become so sanitized to believe that it functions systematically. And as long as the gears keep turning and the people keep trying, then everything's okay. This is really where there's a divergence between this front office, this baseball administration, this on-field management, and the predecessor with Neil Huntington heading baseball ops and Clint Hurdle running the team in the dugout. Neil and Clint weren't always seeing eye to eye, but they were on the same page as it came to, damn it, we got to win. We understand that we have to win. When Clint stood there, and a lot of you will remember this at his introductory press conference, and told all of us, incredibly, still something that blows my mind all these years later, that he felt like he had interviewed the people who own and run the Pirates more than they interviewed him. He wanted to find out if they were serious. He wanted to find out if they were committed to winning. Clint was the one who really brought those juices into the process. Clint wasn't the perfect manager. He'll tell you that himself. Doesn't consider himself to be a perfect human, although I would kind of dispute him on that one. But it was Clint who said, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. And whenever 2012 came along and you could see some of the signs of that team coming together, key pieces of that team, Clint and a lot of the leaders in the locker room, you've heard me talk about this on the program before, the Neil Walkers, the A.J. Burnett's, the Russell Martins, said, we need more. We need more. Let's go. Let's go. This team can win a World Series. Let's go. And Neil, to his credit, went along. He really did. He hired some bright people, good classic old school baseball men who knew what they were doing. They helped him in areas that were previously, and then, by the way, after they left, a shortcoming. And he and Bob Nutting stepped up. Nutting took the payroll to where nobody ever thought it would go. It still hasn't gone back there since, by the way, which is over $100 million. 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, right in that range. But in this current environment, I don't detect this hypothetical individual. I don't detect the Clint in this. For that matter, if you want to get really blunt about all this, I don't detect that individual in the clubhouse. I don't see some sort of leadership conglomerate that's going to get together and speak up and say, hey, what are we doing here? There's no AJ in there. There's no Russ in there. There's no Walk in there. There's no Travis Snyder in there. There's no Francisco Liriano in there. There's no Jason Grilli. There's no Michael McHenry. And the amazing part is I've probably left some names off of that potential list that I'll be kicking myself for after this show is done. But that's the dynamic that's not there. Nutting hired a systems GM. The GM came in and installed systems. When something goes wrong systematically, it's because someone's not listening to him or they're a broken cog. That's why there have been so few firings and so few changes. And the firings that have occurred have been things like the Double-A hitting coach being fired for fixing Ke'Bryan Hayes, but doing it behind, presumably, the backs of the bosses. That's the stuff that he's concerned with. You don't have to take it from me. Listen to him. It's all he talks about is systems, processes. We're trying. We're doing this. We're calculating. If it were up to him, this would just be a wheel for the hamster to run on into eternity. Nothing would change. Something has to change. Somebody has to change it. But who? Who? It's not going to be me by writing columns and yelling here on a podcast. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. And we will have another one of these on Monday.